Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third podcast that we're hosting over here at Cash and Sport. Today we have a very, very, very special international guest. We're going all the way to Germany, to Ingolstadt, and we're going to be speaking to Heiko Egert. He is a guy that I've known for a very long time, since I think 2007. Heiko, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm really good, Heiko. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to me today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your history in sports sponsorships and sports in general, and what you currently do right now for Audi.
Yeah, sure. The whole story of me getting involved in sponsorship and sports marketing goes back to my time at university back in Germany in 95 to around about 2000. When I started my own business besides university, and which ended up me working for the agency that also brought me to South Africa in the end for the 2010 World Cup. So that was a Frankfurt-based agency called Schmidt & Kaiser. They hired me already during university, and I was doing various projects for Mercedes-Benz in the world of sports marketing and media collaborations. And after university, I spent a year work and travel in Australia. That was the time when they had the Summer Olympics in Sydney.
Yeah.
After that, I worked for 2 years in the agency on the Formula One business for Allianz, the insurance company.
Yeah.
And in 2004, I actually started with football. So in the world of soccer, with the European Championship in Portugal for Deutsche Telekom. After that, Coca-Cola for the FIFA Confederations Cup and the FIFA World Cup. We were actually handling the youth programs, the ball boys and girls, and the flag bearer for the two tournaments, with all the international kids coming in.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was already clear that we're probably going to do it again in South Africa for 2009 Confederations Cup in 2010. And that actually brought me to South Africa for around about 3.5 years when I used to live in Johannesburg, and that's the time when we met.
Yeah.
And when also we met through your dad.
Yeah.
He was with Coca-Cola, and that's how we met. And in between, I was the sponsorship manager at the Qatar Football Association. So I spent 15 months in the Middle East. Which was a very interesting time, but after 50 months, it was time to go back to South Africa just in time for the Confederations Cup.
Yeah.
And after the 2010 World Cup, I had to choose between Brazil or back to Germany. When I got the call from Audi to actually activate all the international football sponsorships, as I mentioned, with Manchester United, with AC Milan, with FC Bayern Munich, where we still sponsor and shareholder, and I'm stuck with the four rings for more than 10 years now.
You've been there actually for quite a long time, since 2011.
Yeah.
So you've been working in Audi, and you guys have some very interesting sponsorship ideas. So this general conversation, what I wanted to do with this conversation is, Audi is almost at the apex of where you would be for a brand working in sponsorship in sport. There's Audi, there's Nike, but in terms of excellence and models, the Germans, you guys are always known for doing things almost to the extreme in terms of compliance and making sure that all the boxes are ticked. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you're in that team at Audi. You're a senior member of that team at Audi, who basically ensures that Audi's, sponsorship properties are well run. You go into the right spaces and you know what you're doing. So can you take us through generally where you are right now in the Audi team and what you guys do generally as a team?
Mm-hmm. Well, currently I'm the so-called secretary of the Audi Sponsorship Forum, which is an internal committee consisting of senior executives that have decision-making rights on behalf of the Audi Board of Management. So it's a first-level committee where actually all the decisions are being taken, so that they don't have to be done by our Board of Management.
Yeah.
But from a certain value level, we actually have to go through even higher committees. But basically, we are taking care of the policy making, of the strategic decisions, of the KPI settings for all sponsorships across all the markets. For all the marketing sponsorships, we're taking care of brand ambassadors as well as charitable sponsorships or location-related sponsorships at our production sites.
Yeah.
This has been established about 2 years ago when we had to follow certain procedures after the diesel topic, and we had to create compliance processes, procedures, and in that wake, we had to create this committee to have a defined and compliant process to approve any new or renewed sponsorships. So it's rather process and compliance driven, but with my experience in the practical part with the sports marketing side, when I was actually taking care of the activation of partnerships, and when I was involved in the negotiations of new and renewed contracts.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit between the worlds. I'm a bit the ambassador for the markets towards compliance and legal and our decision making parts, but also I'm consulting to the markets to a little bit still educating them about the rules and regulations that are now in place, and which they unfortunately have to follow, which is a little bit of a bureaucratic process, which we Germans also do very well, bureaucracy.
Yes.
But not forgetting our efficiency.
Yeah.
At the same time, now we don't want to make it too hard for the markets and our operating units in Ingolstadt and Neckarsulm, for them to create sponsorships and partnerships in general that help the brand and that create a proper collaboration with the partners as well. So this is always the core. We not just want to be a sponsor where we throw money at partners and just get our logo exposed, but we really want to create something in collaboration with these partners.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, as an example, right? There was a club or federation in South Africa, right? Or actually anywhere in Africa, really, that was looking to land a big sponsor such as Audi, right? Hypothetically speaking, what would, let's say, maybe the 5 things, what would they be? What would those 5 things be that Audi would be looking at as a sponsor to say, you guys need to tick these boxes before we can consider you as a sponsorship partner?
Yeah, I can give you a very, very concrete example, because Audi South Africa was actually a sponsor with cricketers a few years back.
Yeah.
Which was very specific to South Africa, because we're not sponsoring cricket in any other market.
Yeah.
Except for 2 brand ambassadors in India.
Yeah.
Well, basically home market for cricket, where the colleagues chose to join forces with Virat Kohli, the
cricket captain of India,
captain of the Indian national team.
Yeah.
But in South Africa, actually, it was a very specific topic for the market, because on the global level, from headquarters, we focus very much on soccer, on the big European clubs. We mentioned before, at that time, I think it was still Chelsea. Now we are a sponsor of Tottenham. We're sponsor of Real Madrid and FC Bayern, where we're actually shareholders. But it's very challenging for the markets outside of Europe to actually activate these partnerships.
Yeah.
And on the other side, we have been a rather dominating partner in the world of alpine skiing for about 35 years with our Quattro four-wheel drive technology, which is
Yes.
very suitable for winter sports. But unfortunately, winter sports is not that big in South Africa. So our colleagues down there said, okay, with your global activities, with your global partnerships, we're struggling to activate in South Africa. And they wanted to do cricket as A. And we said, well, it's not strategic for us. So what are the reasons why I want to do it? And the first and biggest KPI is the media relevance. So the visibility on media, where we get an actual media return. So with our latest compliance requirements, we actually have to create a return on sponsorship invest of a minimum of 2-to-1 of the invested money. And the most of that comes from basically TV exposure on press backdrops, on LED screen, LED boards, on sometimes even on jerseys. So that's a major factor. So without the media visibility, sponsorship is hard for us to approve. But on the other side,
so if we were to break that down, right, just to simplify it a little bit for a layman's terms viewer who's not really au fait with what you're talking about when you say media, or so you're talking how many people are watching or seeing the branding on TV, or how many people watch a game, how many shirts they sell, how often they appear in advertising. What does that mean in terms of media? What exactly are you talking about?
Yeah. In order to explain it, let me talk about the way we evaluate that. So we are basically working with external agencies like Nielsen Sport. They started basically back in the 90s in Germany. As a small company called Sport und Markt, when they actually recorded TV broadcasts of sponsorships, and where they put students in front of the TVs and they actually counted and measured the logos visible during a TV broadcast. And they put that into relation with the costs of the TV ads that you could actually purchase parallel at the same time. So the screen share that you get with your logos, and also combined with a so-called quality index. So how many logos are visible? Are there any other partners' logos visible? In which part of the screen is it visible? Is it more in the center or in the corner? So all that taken into account. And calculated, this is really, Excel sheets, very long and very wide.
Actuaries and very smart people. Very smart people who created that, but also there's a lot of work in that. And at the time it was created, you actually had to put people in front of the screen and with a meter and actually find out the size of the logo on the screen. Nowadays, the likes of Nielsen Sport, they actually have algorithms and computers that do that automatically. So basically, on these long lists of logos exposed during a broadcast, you can put a value behind based on the TV, or the advertising equivalent value for TV broadcast. So this is how you create a value on TV. So the more logos or the better visibility of the logos, the higher the media return. But at the same time, talking about the quality index, we actually put a lower quality behind it if there are multiple logos visible. So if you have an LED board just with logos on it, it's not worth more than one logo and a car and actually a text part. So this actually creates more value. But in the end, it's only the logo visibility and you put a media value behind. So it's just figures. It's just quantitative. It does not tell you a lot about the quality. So for a team or a federation, number one is be visible and be seen, preferably on TV, preferably a lot. That's
and
that's
even
that's a crude and simple. Yeah, even on social media, right? So be visible on TV, have your name and have a good number of, good amount of followers and engagement on social media, and be visible. Basically, that's layman's terms, right?
That's the basic that you have to provide as a team to a partner. That creates a certain value that you can evaluate in a quantitative way. So you can put a euro or rand figure behind that. Very simple. But on the other hand, you have to get access to the fans themselves in a more qualitative way. So what can you do on site during a match, outside or before or after a match, at the stadium? How can you create interactions, especially on social media nowadays? Fan interactions, and also crowd interactions, not just one way, but really you create content that's relevant for your fans, and where they come up with reactions and go back to the team or to the athletes with their likes, shares, comments, which again you can count and you can evaluate and put a value behind in a quantitative way, but at the same time you have much more involvement than just showing logos on a TV broadcast. So this is definitely very relevant, and we are looking at these opportunities in our KPIs very strictly. So if you don't have social media channels where you have activation opportunities and where you can actually create content in a collaborative way, not just putting your TV ad on, this is the second most important part.
Okay. All right. So number one is be visible. Number two is be able to interact or have an interactive audience, which you can then allow for opportunities for the sponsor to activate with. Let's say, for instance, if it's a mobile company, the audience has to want and be able to buy data, for instance, or cell phone contracts, or that type of thing. Just your audience has to be usable and reachable, right? So that's number two, right? So moving on, what would number three be?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about buying airtime or something. This is really the business part. But on the other hand, you also want to create content which is of interest and of relevance for the fans of the team or of the federation. So you want to get involved. You just don't want to just stay a sponsor and put your logo everywhere, but you want to have some relevance, and you want to take the fans seriously about their passion about the sports or about the club or about the brand ambassador. So it's really about creating fan relevant content, which is not strictly business related. So these opportunities, for example, fan meet and greets with the team,
and the players,
or creating new content. That's one topic, and there simply you need access to the personalities. So the team is not that relevant anymore, but it's the individuals, the coaches, the players, or in terms of a brand ambassador, you want this brand ambassador at your own events. You don't want just to go to their events, but you want to get them involved in your brand.
Okay. All right. So you would also advocate for
personality is the third biggest topic.
Yeah, I think that's an important one, because you want to sponsor the team, but if the team is inaccessible, where they put up a brick wall around, you can't see a player, you can't talk to a coach and find out what his opinion is. Those fan interactive engagements that derive value for the sponsor and also for the fans, because the sponsor doesn't just want to be a sponsor, throw money at it and say, oh, well, we're done. There needs to be some sort of value that they get, and as well as the fans as well, because the fans are the real commodity that the sponsor is looking for. And I hate to use the word commodity, but that's the reason why you're there, right? Is the sponsor wants to get access to the fans. And if the fans are interacting with the brand, then they'll be more, amenable to what the sponsor is trying to sell.
Yeah. That's especially important in sports. So you as a big, or rather we from the Audi side as a big brand, we give a lot from our brand to the sports.
Yeah.
But in other cases, the sports gives a lot of their image to the brand that is sponsoring. So
yeah.
If you have a small upcoming brand where you want to increase the brand awareness or the knowledge about the brand wants to basically use the sports or the team or the brand ambassador to create relevance and to be more visible. And to actually take part in the hopefully positive image of the partner.
Yeah.
But as a brand that is already very visible and very active in sports, we actually have to be careful that we choose the right partners where the image transfer from Audi to the partner is sometimes more visible than the other way around. So we have to be very cautious that we're not getting any negative return.
So in terms of that image, right? Let's say, for instance, we're talking about people associated to a club, individual players within a club. You look at very famous examples of people who had some very interesting off the field and sometimes on the field. Like, for instance, you remember Colin Kaepernick and the whole taking a knee situation. And how some brands, how the team, responded to that, and how some brands, for instance, Nike decided to stick with him, and some brands decided to walk away. There's a lot of stuff that could go on off the pitch, which could be hugely detrimental, but also a brand could take a very strong position on something or a social issue and say that they want to back an athlete for that. How that's a very fine line, and it's a very difficult balancing act to match. Do you guys have certain metrics, or do you just say, if your brand image is contrary to what we believe, we're out? Are there any fine lines, or how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, there are some basic hygiene factors. So if the partner is involved or was involved in the past in any kind of doping or corruption or any kind of scandals, lawsuits, then usually we step away. So if we have a brand ambassador, for example, that is posting any kind of, racist or other posts on their Instagram account, that's an absolute no-go, and we will end the contract.
Yeah.
But with the selection of new partners, it's certainly much more relevant to look into the future, which is rather difficult because you don't know how the relationship develops and how that person is going to act in the future. And the more the person or personalities are involved, the higher the risk, because then it's more the person in the front than the club or the federation.
Yeah.
And if that person takes one wrong step, that can hit back at you as a brand very, very quickly. And on the other hand, we also have to be very cautious with our history in the past 5 years with all the diesel topic. You've probably heard about our colleagues from Volkswagen trying to do an April Fool only last week, which was not very well received. And the media are slashing out immediately and go back to the
diesel
topic
issue.
from the diesel. So you have to be very, very cautious on how you act and how you take a stand, because it can easily get back to you very quickly. So we rather stay neutral and select partners where we are not expecting the huge controversy. On the other hand, you have to go in new areas, and we are going more at the moment. We're not expanding our partnerships in the world of sports, but we rather focus on design topics, on tech and on environmental topics. So, for example, the Green Tech partnership with the Formula One champion Rosberg, which is closely connected to Formula E, where we're actually actively participating in, and where you can promote e-mobility and electric driving. That's a much more important topic to us. We're trying to play the topic also in the world of sports, for example, with FC Bayern, where we have all the players this year driving an Audi e-tron. But it's
you know, I saw that sponsorship. I saw that, and I wondered, you see, because someone may think, geez, that's a lot of money. The entire squad is all driving Audi e-trons. How and why? You know, but this kind of explains it, because it's not a cheap exercise to go through.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the partnership with FC Bayern goes back to, I think, around about 2007, 2008, or longer. I'm not 100% sure. And actually, part of the contract and part of the deal is actually that we provide cars to the players and to the coaches and to the management. So this is part of the deal. That's actually part of the price we're paying. So instead of paying more cash, part of the deal is that we pay in cars. But they're not receiving these cars as gift. They receive the cars for a year, and this is part of the communication, because we know that all the players have to drive these cars to official meetings, and especially to the training. And if they show up in a different car, they're not allowed to park on the grounds of FC Bayern. And you have a lot of photographers.
I think Kingsley Coman, if I'm not mistaken, got fined for driving a different car to training.
Yep, and pretty hefty fine. Yeah, and that's part of the contract. So they actually have to drive these cars, and we're enforcing that. I mean, we are actually shareholders of FC Bayern Munich, together with Adidas and Allianz. So we are expecting them to do that. I mean, they're getting these cars to drive them in any official surroundings. And it's good cars. I mean,
so at the end of the day, you know, these cars are being driven around by all of these stars. People see them driving around in these cars, and they think it looks attractive. Because they're stars and they have such great public appeal, because they're also around these cars also, you know, generate public appeal by virtue of them being driven by these stars. So, and also they're giving them back after a year. So you don't really lose anything. Those cars would have been produced anyway. And all you're doing is, I mean, there's a whole big, you know, media splash by German car maker gives cars to an entire squad. But in the background, what you're also achieving is massive brand reach, you know, by virtue of, one, the news stories all breaking, and then two, these guys all driving the cars wherever they go for the next year.
I mean, these guys, they can buy and drive any car they want, almost any car they want. Yeah. So this is public knowledge. So many of these guys have, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 cars in their garages. Yeah. For the official occasions, they're using Audi because we are shareholders of the club. So we are part of the club, and we'd like them to use our cars. I mean, it's a different story, for example, for smaller car brands, or not as premium car brands as we are, to enforce that on the players. Yeah. But still, I mean, they're professionals, and they're getting paid also by the sponsors' money. So they have to comply with the contracts. So and again, I mean, it's not that it's too difficult to drive an electric car to work, because we provide them with charging facilities at FC Bayern Munich premises, at the stadium, and even support them to have a wall box at home. Yeah. And they can still in their private time, they can still drive whatever they want. And actually, many of these players actually chose to have a second Audi. Yeah. For their family. So quite a few of them have I don't know, an R6 or something, or a Q7. Yeah. Still for the family, so it's not unusual.
Yeah.
But then you have individuals that sometimes they're uncontrollable. They do what they want. I mean, with Kingsley Coman, the excuse was that I think he actually had a small accident and one of his mirrors was broken, so he decided to take another car just for safety reasons. But he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there you go. But anyway, Heiko, we are out of time for part one. We'll get into part two some other time, but thank you so much for joining us.